Hey, I'm Kurt Indovina, and this is Remember When, the show about old stories in gaming history told with new perspectives. And today, we're looking at how the Xbox One went from having quite possibly the worst sales pitch in gaming history to swooning its way into our hearts. As it stands today, the Xbox One has a lot to love. It's got Game Pass, 600 backwards compatible games, the adaptive controller, the smart delivery initiative for Xbox Series X, and an impressive roster of creative developers joining the Xbox family. It's kind of hard not to love what the console has to offer, which is why it's kind of crazy to think that it started with none of those things.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So let's start at the beginning, the pitch. 7 years back, this man took the stage to reveal what he claimed would be the all-in-one entertainment system.
Good morning, everyone.
His name is Don Mattrick, and he was the president of Xbox. What he presented that day maybe wasn't exactly what people were hoping for.
Xbox, watch TV. And with that simple command, I'm watching live TV.
This is Tamoor Hussain, and back in 2013, he was writing a lot of news on this.
I was excited to see how they were going to build on the success of the Xbox, because the Xbox 360 gave us things that we weren't used to having in the console space. Online gaming, kind of connectivity with other people, achievements, those are kind of things that either were new or only available to PC players. The excitement going into how they would build on that and evolve that for a new generation of gaming and consoles was overwhelming. It was palpable at the time. Xbox was the one to watch at the time. And then I remember when the announcement happened, it was like confusing and deflating in a huge way.
We believe we can evolve what you love to make it decidedly better and deliver breakthrough innovations.
Like you've never seen before.
All new experiences.
Groundbreaking technology.
Even more innovation.
We have an ambitious vision for Xbox One.
What if a single device could provide all your entertainment?
All of your entertainment comes alive in one place.
Of the hour-long reveal, about 15 minutes of it were actually dedicated to video games. The rest of it was about watching TV. Even when they announced the game Quantum Break, it was pitched as a weird TV show, video game hybrid thing. They did make an announcement about Halo.
Thank you.
That they were making a TV show based off of it, which still hasn't happened. I think it's being made, right? They're producing that.
Microsoft's message was incredibly mixed, unclear, and not at all what people expected or wanted. They came in with a very entertainment-focused angle to it, and because of that, they were already on the back foot.
Let's do it again. Go to Internet Explorer. Oh, nice. Watch TV.
Now, if there's one thing clear from that reveal, is that us, the people who play games, the people who would have bought that system to play them, were no longer the core focus. And unfortunately, that was only half the problem. Leading up to the system's reveal, a bunch of rumors started sweeping headlines that sent a lot of us into a panic. Stuff like it requiring an always online connection, a lack of backwards compatibility, and a restriction on used games. And all of those rumors were true.
So the three main hurdles that Microsoft screwed up clearing were always online connectivity, used games, and then backwards compatibility. So always online connectivity. It felt anti-consumer. These days, it's commonplace and almost a necessity because the way it intersected always online connectivity intersected with things like access to your games and access to your accounts. The Xbox One always needed to have online connectivity, and if it didn't have online connectivity, it was basically a cement brick underneath your TV. Whether or not that is the case, the problem was that was the thing that most people took away from it.
That's the thing, that wasn't the case. But Xbox did such a bad job of explaining these boundaries that that's how a lot of people felt. So it didn't always have to be online, but instead once every 24 hours. And say you're playing on a friend's system logged in under your account, well then it would have to check once every hour. Or maybe you didn't have the luxury of an internet connection or were in the army. Well, the answer to that was to play an Xbox 360.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360. That's your message if you don't like it?
If you have zero access to the internet, that is an offline device.
The second rumor that ended up being true was backwards compatibility. So Don Mattrick crunched some numbers and discovered that 5% of players used a new system to play old games. So if we're going off 360 sales, that would mean of the 80 million people who bought a 360, 4 million of them used it to play old games. And then he followed that up with, if you're backwards compatible, then you're really backwards.
It was a big deal because of the success Microsoft had with the 360. So the 360 was, like the PlayStation 2 before it, the de facto console of choice for a lot of people. That means all the biggest franchises, all the games that you probably loved playing and owned were on the 360. And because it wasn't immediately clear, it wasn't immediately possible that you could play all those games on the Xbox One, that meant people were locked out of so much of the content they had spent their money on, that they were invested in, and that they were still playing, because the 360 was an online console. So years after their releases, people were still playing Gears, people were still playing COD, people were still playing various other online games. And the fact that that wasn't a clear line was being drawn in the sand, and Microsoft was saying all that money you spent and all that time you put in is now done away with, that was a problem. That was a huge problem for them.
Lastly, there is lending and reselling games, which is kind of a doozy. So to properly explain this, I will be using a number of props, including my cat. Say I wanted to give my copy of Deadly Premonition to my cat Megatron. In order for her to play this game, her and I would have to be friends on Xbox Live for a total of 30 days. Apparently she's not too happy about that. So now say Megatron wants to loan Deadly Premonition to her best friend BJ Blazkowicz. Unfortunately for BJ, there is a one-time transfer between games, so he wouldn't even be able to play it at all. Again, Megatron did not seem to like that. So what does this mean for reselling games? To explain that, I'm gonna bring in Godzilla. Now Godzilla represents the publisher in this case, specifically to Deadly Premonition. I also have Jolly Chimp, who represents the retailer. Godzilla holds the right as to whether or not Deadly Premonition is even resellable. Let's say it is, and I want to sell this game to Jolly Chimp. Godzilla also has the right to say, yo, Jolly Chimp, you owe me money if you want to resell this game, which would in turn lessen the value of Deadly Premonition. That means they would have to make a profit somehow, which would give me less money if I wanted to resell the game. And then on top of all that, Godzilla can just choose to make the game unshareable to anyone else at all. If it sounds like a lot, that's because it is. And it all felt like the fine print at the end of a contract you didn't even want to sign in the first place because all you wanted to do was play video games.
Youth gaming was, and still is, a huge part of the way people consumed games. Games are expensive, they come out very, very frequently, and for a lot of people, the only way they can stay up to date with games is to buy one, trade it in, and use some of that money to buy another one. People on the gaming and press and fan side, what they were hearing was, you won't be able to play the games that you want to play without shelling out a lot of money. And it goes back to that feeling of Microsoft was trying to rip away how people experience games and played games from the player.
And I haven't even brought up the Kinect yet, but in short, it was a requirement for this dude, whether you liked it or not. All of which put this at $499. Between its restrictive barriers, its lack of focus on games, the Kinect being required, and its price tag, this all-in-one entertainment system started to feel like it was for no one. And of course, Sony took this time to revel in its competitors' controversies with the announcement of the PlayStation 4.
I'm very proud to announce that PlayStation 4 will be available at $399.
The PlayStation 4 had no online requirement, no game sharing restrictions, no used game restrictions, and it was $100 cheaper.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
These consoles weren't even out yet, but Sony had already taken the lead. In just a matter of a couple weeks, Xbox did backpedal on both online requirements and game sharing requirements, but the damage had been done and a lot of us were no longer listening. Which brings us to the next segment, the turning of the tides. This is Phil Spencer, and in 2013, He became the new president of Xbox, taking the place of Don Mattrick. And it was during this time that things just started to turn around.
This guy was through and through a video game fan. He's been at the company for a really long time and has been pushing through, different initiatives. But now he was in a position of power and influence. He was top of the Xbox food chain. I think a lot of people feel and would attribute Phil Spencer's rise to the top of Microsoft and Xbox as a key turning point for that company.
First order of business, Kinect is out, making this thing $399. Next up is backwards compatibility, making games like Deadly Premonition playable in its original form. Sneak King still isn't in there, but it's okay, it's fine. Then in 2017, Game Pass happened, which made hundreds of games, both old and completely new, available to just download it on your system for a reasonable monthly fee. Then, the adaptive controller came along, which made this medium more available to a broader demographic who otherwise couldn't experience these games as easily. And recently, with the announcement of its new console, Xbox Series X, several of the games you purchase for Xbox One will be available on the Xbox Series X with no additional fee. And this is called Smart Delivery. Now, over the past 7 years, Xbox has completely flipped its identity around, and nothing better demonstrates that than its presence at E3. In 2018, it was nothing but an onslaught of game after game after game reveal. Then in 2019 was another unrelenting showcase of games, buying up more creative and interesting studios like Double Fine, a big ol' step in the direction of cloud gaming, and Keanu Reeves.
You're breathtaking!
Even though Xbox has managed to churn the ship around, it hasn't truly bounced back from that initial sales pitch, at least not in sales. PlayStation 4 has sold more than double the Xbox One, but in mind share, the perception of Xbox, especially my own, is entirely different. I didn't even get an Xbox One until 2018 because of stuff like Game Pass and backwards compatibility, and through some very hard lessons, Xbox is in a stronger position now with a new generation on the way, which is very telling from the Xbox Series X reveal, which was only focused on games. Not watching TV, not some Kinect gimmick. So while a lot of us still have a bad taste in our mouths from the Xbox One's launch, it's hard not to applaud them for bringing it back to the core focus of this entire medium, the players. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Remember When. Now, don't worry, I am working on a PlayStation equivalent to this, so be on the lookout for that sometime in the near future. Also, if you want to watch all the previous episodes of Remember When, check out the playlist link in the description below. Also, lastly, you can bug me on Twitter if you'd like, at Kurt_Indovina. I think that's all I got. Be well, until next time. See ya.